I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we have leaks once again that Apple's having issues with producing an extreme chipset for the higher-end Macs. So let's delve in. So way back when, we had leaks about an M2 Extreme chipset for a future Mac Pro, which would essentially be two M2 Ultras stuck together to give us some insane performance. However, it seems Apple ran out of glue because they could not give us an extreme chipset, and so as a result we had a pretty underwhelming refresh to the Mac Pro, where of course it had the same chassis as before with the exact same performance as the smaller and cheaper Mac Studio, whilst only offering expandable storage as the only upgrades. But when I say expandable, you had to upgrade the storage using Apple's expensive storage modules. So all in all, this was a piss poor update, guys. And so many of us were hoping that with the M4 generation of Macs, maybe we could finally get an M4 Extreme chipset, which based on the M4 Max specs could offer up to 64 CPU cores and a whopping 160 GPU cores. That is a lot of cores and would be mind-blowing levels of performance, but unfortunately it seems once again Apple's decided to ditch these plans. According to the information, Apple wants to free up engineering resources for their AI server chipset instead, since Apple Intelligence is now the next big thing, and so for the time being plans to make an extreme chipset have been cancelled. Now John Gruber, a reputable journalist, had made a good point that Apple starts development on their chipsets quite early on, and so whatever was dropped right now might be the M5 or the M6 Extreme, and we could still see an M4 Extreme launch next year. I hope that's the case because, as I said, the Mac Pro is in a bit of an awkward spot right now since it does not offer enough differences to justify the much higher price compared to a Mac Studio. Though one can argue the Mac Pro was never that popular in the first place, and so I can understand why they're focusing on the AI server chipset instead, because from a business perspective, yes, Apple Intelligence is the thing they can market for the masses and it should be what they focus on, but the Mac Pro is a very weird product, and so I'm hoping they either simplify the range and just can the Mac Pro, or they give it a new design and much more powerful hardware so that of course it does have a place in the range. Anyway, let's now talk about the 2025 roadmap for M4 Max overall, because whilst we have got new models this year, Apple does plan to refresh the whole range with the M4 chipset. But before we get into that, you know what I would appreciate? Subscribing to the channel, of course. It would bring you the latest about Apple right to subscription box, so please consider it. It would be appreciated. Join the Saran Bite gang now. So beginning with the MacBook Air, apparently production for the M4 version is beginning very soon, and this will just be a chipset refresh for the most part according to Mark Gurman, which is not surprising, and so we can expect the same 13-inch and 15-inch configurations. Now the timeframe Gurman gives us is sometime between Jan and March of 2025, and some leaning towards a March release similar to what they did with the M3 chipset. Now that Apple are the ones actually making the chipsets, it seems they want a more consistent release schedule for their most popular Macs, and so expect the Air to get updated every March and the Pro to get updated every October, for example. Now whilst this will be a chipset refresh for the most part, I do expect other changes we saw with the MacBook Pro. So for example, we can expect a center stage camera, which will be a nice change since the camera will now be able to follow you around as you move, and also you get access to desk view if you're presenting anything. The nano texture finish, I'm not sure if the Air is going to get, but considering the base iMac has this option, maybe the base MacBook Air is also going to follow suit. I also would expect new colors because we've now had 2 generations of MacBook Air with the same set of colors, and obviously Apple gave the MacBook Pro and the iMac a new set of colors midway through their design cycle, and so now that Apple's reusing the shell for the 3rd time, we can finally expect some new shades. Hopefully we get more vibrant colors this time, because the Air should just be a fun looking MacBook. I've had enough of the boring, serious looking shades. Those can be reserved for the pros, but it's time the MacBook Air gets some vibrant, fun colors similar to the iPad 10. But of course the big news will be 16 gigs of RAM as standard, which obviously is already the case with the M3 and M2 models, but regardless this is a huge game changer for the Mac because it finally makes the base model great value. You won't be stuck with 8 gigs, which might be limiting in the future, and I'm assuming once the M4 model launches at $1099, we should see the M3 Air drop to $999, which will be a great deal as well. The next Mac that should be refreshed is the Mac Studio. So according to Mark Gurman, this was on track to launch in March alongside the MacBook Air, but has now been pushed to June. However, I do want to call out Gurman because he actually said the Mac Studio would launch during mid-2025 before, so what exactly is the delay here? Anyway, I think it makes sense to launch this at WWDC because that's where the last model launched, and if you think about it, a lot of creative professionals and developers, aka nerds, are going to be buying these, and so they're the ones watching WWDC in the first place. Now I know this is a desktop, but Apple will be reusing the shell for the third time as well, so it would be nice to see some new colors. A space black option would be awesome, but considering the Mac Mini did not get any new color options, I do doubt that. Now what I am hoping the Mac Studio gets from the Mac Mini is the SD card reader moving to the front, because that's just way more convenient for the user. Finally, coming back to the Mac Pro, initially I thought we would see a refresh to that around mid-2025 as well, maybe alongside the Mac Studio, but Gurman says that might be pushed back to late 2025. Now of course we're still unsure if it's getting an Ultra or Extreme chipset, but I also do wonder, will this actually be getting an M4 chipset in the first place, or is it going to move to M5? Because surely it would be kind of late to implement an M4 generation chipset when we're probably going to be getting M5 MacBooks in late 2025. But anyway, if everything goes to plan, for the first time ever, every Mac's going to be on the same generation of M series chipsets. I say first time because the Mac Pro never got M1, nor did it get the M3, and actually every desktop except the iMac did not get the M3, and that also did not get the M2. So yeah, I think I've made my point clear by now. Apple cares a lot about M4, they want to implement it everywhere because of course they want to push Apple Intelligence, and I must admit the M4 chipset does have some nice changes. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching. Hey guys, we have exciting news about camera bumps. Yes, that's how exciting iPhone 17 leaks are right now, but of course there's been a lot of talk about the camera module on the back of the device being completely redesigned, with it now apparently incorporating a pixel design. But as per the norm in the world of leaks, we have a new report that goes completely against this. So Weibo source Instant Digital essentially claims that Apple will be changing the appearance of the back of the iPhone, but the stove camera design is gonna stay yet again. Now I'm not completely surprised by this because I had brought up in previous videos that the cameras are positioned in that way because they're an equal distance to each other, which of course helps you seamlessly switch between the lenses, but also spatial video is now a big feature on the iPhone, and the cameras are positioned in a specific way to work with that feature as well. So there's not a lot of freedom here for Apple to drastically change the camera module. For the time being, they do have to kind of stick to this, but of course, the information initially reported the back is now going to be made out of part glass, part aluminium, and so maybe that's a change we're going to see. Maybe we get a two-tone design. That would be very cool for the iPhone, but I can't lie, I am a little bummed out the redesign isn't as massive as we were expecting. And by the way, if you're wondering about older iPhone 17 leaks, including the iPhone 17 Pro moving to aluminium, here's my